We're past our 10 o'clock, so we might as well get started. Thanks, everybody, for joining us today. I'd like to start with a little disclaimer. I'm filling in for Glenn, so apologize. I'm probably going to refer to my notes a little more than I would like to. So if we do have any questions that we're unable to answer today, just please keep in mind we can get those to you as soon as possible, and hopefully that won't happen, and we'll all learn something fun here today. All right. So my name is Jeff Coppersmith. Glenn Bowden was going to give this presentation on artificial intelligence and machine learning and what HPE can do for you, your customers, or your partners in that regard. And we're done. All right. Yeah, that wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. So the world's replacing programming with training. So artificial intelligence, and in particular machine learning, is using methodologies such as linear regressions and statistical clustering to have a computer analyze large data sets and find correlations. The results of these models predict probabilities of something may happen, and building these logic paths through programming alone could take forever. Oh man, this is not starting well. So it could take a lifetime of iterations as developers examine each feature and calculate the impact of making changes on that feature and what that can mean downstream. So machine learning in particular allows that to happen in memory through parallel computing. The trick to getting this right, however, is understanding which of these features can be adjusted and should be tweaked, and how to interpret those results. This allows us to fine-tune those models to get the best possible outcome from that data as it's presented and in the most accurate fashion. So obviously there's a trade-off here between performance and speed. So the challenge that we have here, there's a huge database of developers and a relatively small amount of data scientists, as we were talking when we first came in here today. So couple that with the millions of IT folks required to keep all of this infrastructure watered and maintained, and the outlook can be pretty daunting. One down, all right. So now we're going to look at a high level here of the moving parts of an AI application in the context of the demands that it places on a particular organization. But let's focus a little bit. Oop, not even on the right slide. Pardon me. So when you see your competitors taking value out of the data that you may also be retaining but not monetizing, or maybe you see an immediate opportunity to extract knowledge that could provide you this ultimate advantage, what you need to do defines what you have to do. So AI has this life that's nourished by immense amounts of data, and very often the places that data is collected is not going to be the same places that data is going to be analyzed. So where it's collected can be, nope, we already did that. So for this reason, when we look at deploying applications that are driven by AI and that data pipeline, we need to look across environments from the edge to the cloud and everything in between. So where is it generated? How long do I have to take action with this data? What are my business goals? Any security compliance regulations and things like this? So the answers to these questions define where that data should live along that continuum. What you need to do with the data helps define the analytic tools that you need along the way. So a couple examples here. You might have seconds to decide if an online transaction is fraudulent or not. So this is going to be a great location or a great workload for something in the cloud, as it's a very small amount of data, and analyzing this in the cloud is going to be the appropriate location. But if you're designing a car and you have months, maybe even years to absorb this data and roll this out for revision in the next version or the next model, then that HPC cluster maintained in the factory is going to be in an appropriate place. But in that same example, if this car has milliseconds to decide between running into a wall or running into a pedestrian, the amount of data coming in from those types of sensors is going to be vast and needs to be processed right there at the edge in order to make the appropriate decision. So there's many different use cases, as in we're going to see as we get a little deeper in here. There's a lot of unique aspects that need to be taken into account depending on that particular industry or vertical. So we're going to look at a high level of those moving parts as I started to talk about before, and hopefully this one does align with the where I'm at in my notes here. So I'm glad I'm seeing smiles. You guys are very polite. I appreciate that. So let's focus a little bit on what these requirements actually are. Now we start at the bottom here on hardware. This is where people tend to think of HPE as providing that benefit, and they're right. There's a lot of hardware platforms that are going to be well suited in this environment. It's not really what we're here to talk about today, but there are many people down in the booth who would love to have these conversations. So if you want to continue that particular topic, please feel free to stop by downstairs. But as we move up the stack, we of course hit software next. Now this is an enormous domain that includes everything from the operating environment, the workload scheduling, management. And the challenge is to gaining this insight and to using this, as we mentioned, this complexity to our benefit in our particular use case. So we have a unique design and deployment on each project, as I was mentioning. And a large amount of time and resources are consumed as a result of this complexity and this development for our particular use case. And this introduces risk and accountability issues, both for inconsistent results as well as for project failures. So there's a lot riding on it. And finally, these are valuable resources that are involved. They may be highly sought after from other groups, other teams, constantly bickering over where is the best case to use all of this hardware. So inherently inefficient if used incorrectly. So the 4 pillars. This one's rough. I was going to hide this one from you guys, so let's see where we go here. All right, so one thing we definitely can agree on here is customers really are not clear most of the time on how to start with AI and machine learning. So you have an ecosystem which is growing rapidly, and new frameworks, methods are a daily occurrence. Understanding the choices and how to integrate them into a particular ecosystem is very challenging. So while data sets are distributed, there's really no easy way to describe the dependencies and delivery mechanisms. So most big data environments become monolithic and static, not allowing for iteration of functionality and service evolution. There's little capacity to move analytic workloads to new environments or deploy in a hybrid environment, as many are built in place and fairly fragile. Yeah, I'm just not going to do, yep, we're going to move on to the next one. I'm not going to do that justice. So there are a lot of software packages that are involved. There's the summary here. There's a lot of software packages involved. If you guys want to know more, come up and grab my card. I'll get you in touch with all the people who talk about that stuff on a daily basis. And back a little bit more to my level here. So there's a lot of cloud services and a lot of people out there assisting in this environment as well. So you've got your well-recognized names, your Googles, Microsofts, Amazons. HPE and our partner network has over 20 partners certified and ready to help in this environment as well. As the open source, which is a very large community with over 50 language frameworks. And last one I didn't have time to Google, so unfortunately we're just going to say 40 plus. Model categories. Okay, so now again into that complexity, into that uniqueness per vertical here. So we have a list of different vertical solutions as far as a high-level overview of how that would work. So we're not really going to go. we're not going to be able to go through all of the nitty-gritty here, but what I do want you to take away is, while all these people are using AI and machine learning, there's different goals, there's different start points, there's different bumps along the way. So being able to understand how to get from the start to the finish is really the point of today's conversation. I would imagine we can make this presentation available, so if you do want me to get that, I see a couple pictures being taken, so I'm happy to make that case for us if it's not the case. So outside of a use case, we'll look at the layered architecture here. So we've got, again, a large number of moving pieces here to get us from our start to finish. So in a perfect example, when I look at this, I see an eye chart. So I'm probably closer to what your customer's knowledge level is going to be than what a lot of y'all are. So really what we want to do here is demonstrate what HPE and Pointnext in particular can do to help streamline this and bring your customers up to the cutting edge or the bleeding edge of this type of a technology without having to sit down and invest all of their resources. So with the conventional on the left-hand side, this is all something that's going to be homebrewed by this particular, totally lost that train of thought, by this particular company and this IT organization. There's the word I was looking for that's so difficult to come up with. But the goal is when you're building this by hand, you're not just going to start, go through, follow the guidelines and get to the end. This is going to take weeks, possibly months, where you may have failure upon failure. Goal here is getting to our proof points and failing fast so that we can learn and continue to move forward. So Pointnext has a product, or excuse me, this is a Pointnext consulting solution called OneAl that's going to help, we'll see in a second here, it's going to help streamline this process to make all the heavy lifting take advantage of the HPE intellectual property and templates and experience in this workplace to help bring this value to your customer in a quicker fashion. How I got so out of whack, I do not know. All right. So this is a particular use case as far as simplifying the provision of a blockchain network from a matter of weeks down to a number of minutes. So again, in these templates, in this investment that the OneAl has brought to the table, you're leveraging the work that's been done, maybe not in a similar environment, but on a similar task. And that's been able to be absorbed by the Pointnext organization and provided as a service to these companies who are looking maybe in a POC or hopefully soon in a production environment to take this next leap into big data and recognizing the value that's available in all of this stuff that we may have been overlooking in the past. Okay, so we looked at the existing AI process before as far as the individual complexity, the inherent risks involved, and we're correlating that in this slide directly to what HPE is providing to simplify this process for your end users. So as I mentioned, that global expertise and the templates as far as our IP is concerned, we're able to leverage that and reuse what we've learned. Again, I'm repeating myself, apologies. What we've learned from other projects that have been worked on and how we can leverage those existing lessons in your customer's environment. This also allows us to speed up that deployment, as we saw on the previous slide, from weeks to minutes, getting that first time to failure done and over with as quickly as possible. Helps rapidly speed up the deployment to start receiving this data. And that risk allows us to essentially learn and evolve. So we've got more of I don't want to say sandbox, but we have more people behind us with knowledge and with expertise that allow us to learn and engage or learn and evolve from the things that they may have seen cause issues in the past to avoid those and rapidly move on. and then increase that efficiency. Those consultants are driving the insight from previous to these current customers and the times that they're engaged. So one more time, let's repeat that as a Pointnext consulting solution if we want to be vernacularly accurate. Oh, Lordy. And this is where we get into the deep dives. So you guys, I'm sure, are going to have questions. Again, I apologize in advance. This is a particular functional architecture that you can read from the top of the slide, and unfortunately, that's about all I have to talk. Do you want to say anything in regards to that, or?
Sure. I mean, I can jump in. That you look over here, and they have that OneAI client, right, that they created and whatnot. And with that, they can go through that gallery. They can pick and choose components, put them together, create a flow. They can access various data sources in any way that makes sense, and deploy those things. And if you notice over there, there's registries of these applications that are sitting there ready to go, ready to consume and whatnot. So they can do quick, easy deployments, and just like you do machine learning to teach computers how to do it from learning data sets, you can go through this process over and over and refine your whole entire process to do the deployment with OneAI as a service.
Wonderful. Definitely could not have said that any better myself. So once we've begun this process, the idea of scaling and where do we go in the future, obviously data is not going to start shrinking in the near future, so this is something that needs to have a growth model involved as well. So over the next couple of slides here, we're going to have the idea of how do we grow with this program or this workload as it begins to evolve and change as well. So the first one we're going to have is scaling at a service level. So we may need to expand on what we originally thought would be adequate. This tells you how we do that. And so at the lowest level here, we're outlining scaling at a particular service level. But we can also scale a particular cluster, obviously, as well. So if we need to, scale out in this environment, so the OneAI service load balancer is going to maintain all of that traffic cop scenario to make, we add in additional hardware, and that load balancing functionality is going to do all the heavy lifting there when we're scaling at the cluster level. How in the world did I get so out of order? And this one I don't even have in my list, so we're losing them. Okay, that's not even in my list.
So the big things here are to point out that what they created is Helm charts, right? To do these services, this collection of services, to make the deployment easier, and that ties back to that OAI client that was mentioned a while ago. Pulls from that gallery of applications and whatnot. And this is how they've made it easy for them to deploy, but that's actually, at the end of the day, it's how customers can consume the solution, right? Because they want to use the AI framework, they want to use machine learning. So this is how it's happening underneath. Okay.
In a convenient little Helm command line structure. Yep. That part I do remember about talking now that I think about it. Okay, thank you, Brian. And then being able to consume this in pretty dashboards, use cases, all of this information available through HPE's Pointnext portal. We want to give deeper dives into, again, those individual use cases, as we mentioned, are going to be unique for a particular vertical. So you may not have the exact same deployment in your particular environment, but getting close is going to help begin to foster that conversation with your HPE Pointnext representatives, or at least with yourselves and your customers or your partners. Trying to make as many resources available there as we can. And then the dashboard within, I'm going to say this is within just Pointnext. Start deploy. This could be OneAI. Yeah, so there's your snapshot of kind of what this is going to look in a real world example, whether you've got a, a training template on one side. So this is, significantly cleaner and easier is when you're providing this as a service as opposed to, building the soup to nuts solution on your own. I don't even know why I'm flipping these anymore. There ain't nothing wrote on those. And so, again, a lot of the TensorArt, TensorFlow, all of that came up in that slide that I just skipped over because I didn't know what all of that was for.
Data scientists, you understand what these things mean
Exactly.
up there, and so that's why this slide was put in. If you're a data scientist, wow, excuse me, you want to see these words on the screen, and that's your APIs.
Okay, great. Group participation, I love it. This is actually very fun for me. I'm hoping some of you are learning something today, because I am. And again, this, I guess, is going to be my running dashboard of all of my things that I have deployed and managed by this OneAI product. So depending on where I'm going in this process from start to finish, we've got all of that rolled up into a convenient dashboard for easy consumption from any level, the data scientist to the sysadmins and anything who would have a hand in that fight. Not the right, didn't say that right, but anyway, I got really...
Jeff, I mean, the Discover Lab, that's where they can emulate, they can put together a proof of concept for a customer and they can play with it. And just like you pointed out, a data scientist would see Jupyter,
Yes,
and they go,
the notebook.
cool.
The
I
notebook.
can jump to the notebook, I can start putting together workflows, done.
Yep.
And those were real words. So I saw this slide and got a little excited. So I kind of lost my train of thought there. But again, if you do have additional questions, I'm more than happy to get you in touch with the right people. Apologize, we had to have some last minute scheduling changes, and I appreciate your patience today. So thank you everybody for your time today.